Hello YouTube friends. Now, aren't clouds fantastic? Well, normally they are anyway. Now, have you ever taken a photograph of a really dramatic sky and then when you return home to look at it on the computer, it's nowhere near as dramatic as what you remember it? Now, there's a great tool inside of Lightroom that really will help you bring your clouds to life. So stay tuned. One of the great things about Lightroom is that you can revisit shots that you've previously edited. Now, this particular shot I took a number of years ago, and it's of the famous Liver buildings here in Liverpool. It's this glorious building in the centre, and it sits on the banks of the River Mersey. It's looking a bit dull, isn't it, and a bit flat. So some basic corrections would fix that, which I did, and it looked like this. And you can see it's a bit more colourful, it's a bit more punchy, and it's looking a lot better, isn't it? Now, I remember I left it as that and I was happy with that. But again, like I say, the power of Lightroom is that you can revisit that shot and continue editing when you either get new tools to use or you get better at editing. In this case, I decided to use the Dehaze tool. Now, what is the Dehaze tool and why did I use it? Well, I can see that there's loads of detail in the clouds. There's loads of detail in the sky. Now, as I said previously, I do love clouds, but the detail is kind of missing. Now, because it's a raw shot, I can see all the detail. It is there. It just needs bringing out. So to do that, I used the Dehaze tool. And this is what it looked like after I'd applied it. And you can see now that the wonderful, you know, the majesticness of the sky now. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? So I'm going to show you how to do that. And as I say, you can continue editing, and I did with this because I spotted that on the windows of the building, you can see that the sunlight has caught onto the glass, as we say in Liverpool, glass if you're somewhere else. But anyway, on the windows, you can see that the sunlight is, you know, it's made this lovely little yellow highlight colour. So up here, there's an opening in the sky, and I thought, whoa, I'll get a shaft of light coming down here. So I did that, and that looked like this. And it's enhanced this cloud detail even further, hasn't it? So I think that looks marvellous. So that's what I eventually finished with. So going full screen on that shot, you can see it looks great, doesn't it? It looks really, really good. When you consider it started off looking like this, it's a massive transformation, isn't it? So let's make a start on the edit then. First of all, I will select the one with the basic corrections. Okay, so that is just, you know, just the general stuff you do to get the exposure and the white balance right. So I'm just going to collapse these panels so we've got a bit more space. Okay, now Dehaze. Now the Dehaze actually lives in the basic panel. However, as you know, if you do any adjustments in this basic panel, it does it globally. So let me just show you what would happen. Here's the Dehaze tool. When I drag this across, you can see I'm putting loads of lovely detail into the sky. However, it's also applied the adjustment to the building and to the water. And it's kind of give this horrible contrasty, oversaturated look. Now, I don't want that. I only want to sort of adjust the sky. So I'm going to return that to where it was. And what we need to do is to apply that locally. The Dehaze needs to be applied locally. And of course, we do that with the adjustment brush, which lives on this tool strip just here. So if I click on that, you can see that I have the Dehaze here, and I can paint in that adjustment. So make sure before you paint in any adjustment that everything is set to 0. And obviously you can paint in whichever adjustment you want. Now in this case, we want to paint in Dehaze. So I'm going to take the Dehaze up to about 40, 43 should do it. And as you can see, there's me brush in the center. Now, I have done a video on how to use the adjustment brush. So if you've never used it before, then perhaps go across and watch that video. Because what I'm going to do is paint in the detail now, but I'm going to speed the video up because I'm sure you don't want to see me sit there while I do it. But just to remind you that always make sure that you put the auto mask, switch that on. And in this case, I'm going to set the flow to 100. Now remember that we try to keep the plus sign on the area that we're painting. So obviously we don't want that plus sign to jump into the building itself, otherwise we'll apply the adjustment to the building as well. So this little plus symbol, just make sure it's on the outside, and then we can paint the sky. So I'm going to speed this part up, like I say, because I'm sure you don't want to watch me do this. So there you have it then, one painted sky, and with the dehaze applied, as I say, just to the sky. Now it looks great, doesn't it? Now another thing I did with that is I just changed the colour of the sky slightly, and I'm going to put in a tiny little bit of blue, and I'm going to add some green as well, so probably around about there, and that looks great, doesn't it? So, you know, a before and after on that, that's what it looked like. And then I'm just applying that dehaze locally to the sky. It created this, and that looks marvelous, doesn't it? So remember, you know, that you need to sort of keep the auto mask on, and the auto mask will make sure that, you know, your correction as you paint it in doesn't actually paint the correction onto the building, and zoom in when you're doing it, you know. So that is the dehaze applied to the sky. So I'm going to just click on done. So my next step now would be to apply this other shaft of light. So for the shaft of light, I'm going to use the Radial Tool, which again just lives on this tool strip here. And click on there, make sure everything's set to 0. We can just double click on effect for that, and everything's gone back to 0. And then I'm going to draw my shape, and you know, we can use the little points around the shape to drag it to the shape we want, and the dimensions, and again, once we've done it, we can always alter it, and if we change our mind to, you know, whatever particular shape or size. So let's put it round about there. Now I want to add into that some yellow. Now before I add any corrections at all, I need to make sure that I check this little box here, invert, and that will just ensure that any corrections I make here will only be inside the shape that I've just drawn with the Radial Tool. So therefore, let me put some yellow in, and I'm going to increase the temperature up to around about 29. And that looks fab, doesn't it? And also a little bit of red, I think, as well. So put that up to, say, around about 11 or 12. And now you can see that shaft of light that's kind of sort of put this lovely yellow colour on top of the clouds. Now, as well as adding that colour, I'm just going to add a little tiny bit more dehaze just to that area there. Now, not much, probably about 10, something like that, just to bring that detail out a bit more. I think that looks marvellous. So that is what I did to the sky. And as I say, you know, you can pull that shape to wherever you want it to be, maybe make it a little bit longer. But for now, I'm going to leave it at that, and I think that looks fine. So just simply click on done. Now, when I did that, I thought, you know, the building should be a little bit more golden as well, because the light has come through the clouds and it's hit the building too. So to do that, I'm going to use another radial adjustment, And again, just make sure everything's set to 0. And let's draw a shape then around the building. And again, I guess it should be on that bit of an angle. So round about there. And let's take the yellow in the temperature up to about 26. Now, you see what I did there? I forgot to check this little box here. So make sure you have that box checked. And, you know, again, it will just do the building. Now, I think the building could do with being made slightly brighter as well. So I'm just going to take the exposure up just a tiny bit. Round about there, maybe. And lift the shadows a little bit as well, I think, but not too much. And perhaps increase the saturation a touch as well. And when you're happy with that, I think that looks really good. Just click on done. Now that is that edit finished. And if I go back to the start, we can see what that looked like beforehand. So there we have the image then before I applied that dehaze filter to the sky. And as I say, it still looks a good image, but applying the dehaze locally and the shaft of light using the Radial Tool, it's made a dramatic difference, hasn't it? So why don't we go full screen then and look at the two, the before and after, and it really does, honestly, it lifts me when I do that. It makes me think, wow, look what I've just done, and hopefully you'll be getting the same results. So let's look at the before then with absolutely no correction, straight from the camera, and then compare it with the basic adjustments I did, and then the dehaze, and then finally that radial filter that I put into the sky. So let's just take a look at the two. So here is the before. And as you can see, it's a really flat photograph, and it's just not punchy. The composition's there though, which always helps, doesn't it? And it's exposed well. And as I say, with it being a RAW file, it gives you the opportunity to reclaim all those highlights and shadows and put saturation, etc. So it went from this to this. And as you can see, it's a massive change, isn't it? It really is. And jumping between the two, you can see, you know, the sky just looks, biblical, doesn't it? It looks just amazing. So that is just using the Dehaze tool. So have fun with the Dehaze tool. Can't even say it. Have fun with the Dehaze tool, and especially in the likes of, you know, sky areas where you really can bring that detail back. Now, to finish off the image, what I did then was to take it into Photoshop, and the only reason I did that was because I wanted a reflection of the buildings in the River Mersey below. And I'm not going to show you how to do that because it's not a Photoshop thing, but just to show you my thoughts on it, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a reflection? Now, if you'd like me to do a tutorial on how I did that, just leave a comment below. But it went from what you can see on the screen to this. And as you can see, it's pretty much the same. It's just that it has that reflection in the bottom. And it changed the colours slightly, but yeah, that was my finished result anyway. So as I say, if you want to sort of see a little tutorial about how I put the reflection in, by all means put a little comment below. So there you have it then, the fabulous Dehaze tool. Now I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe or maybe click on the little bell icon to be notified of further uploads. But above all else, thanks very much for watching. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next upload. So bye for now.
Take a photograph and make the moment last ever perfect. Photo company. Take a photograph and make the moment last with the perfect photo company.